Today we're going to talk about the variation in even moss stitches. I have two examples here for you. This number one has a looser stitch. It has raised bumps. It's more puffy, and the reason for that is because I'm always working in the back loop. I'm going to work my half double crochet, back loop, back loop again for the slip stitch, back loop again for the half double crochet, and keep repeating. And this way, only using one loop, we're going to get this raised bumpy texture for a lighter blanket compared to this example. This one is more dense, it's not as puffy, and that's because I'm using both loops instead of one. Both loops, slip stitch, again 1, 2, half double crochet, both loops, slip stitch. Always use 1, 2, both of the loops here, and only the back loop in this version. I guess you could call this a variation too, but what happens if our even moss stitch is not so even? What if you skip these two loops here? What if you go into the very next one? So we have a slip stitch here, we have to go into our half double crochet. If we skip this one and just go straight into the second one, what is going to happen to our work? Well, what's going to happen is that you're going to have an uneven moss stitch. That's why it's very important to count and make sure that all your loops are taken care of. I'm going to go forward and backward with this work and see what happens to the back and the front of our work. And here's what happened to our work. Instead of having all of our even moss stitches line up, they are now shifted over, and now they're right in between our stitches here. The first three are all even here, then our work moves over and our work tapers. So when you're noticing that your work is tapering, that means you must have missed a stitch somewhere. Ideally, this is what our work should look like. Our stitches are all even in one column, moving up and up and up and up. If we were to miss one stitch, it will be shifted over in between the moss stitches here. In this version here, I'm using the original variation of the even moss stitch to make a really warm winter blanket. By original, I mean the one that requires you to go through two loops instead of one. Back loop here, back loop, a looser stitch, a more puffy texture, and what I call the original that requires you to go through two loops for a warmer, heftier blanket.